You and a super intelligent snail both get $1 million, and you both become immortal. However, you die if the snail touches you. It always knows where you are and slowly crawls toward you. What's your plan? Pay another snail to seduce it and pretend to fall in love with it for exactly 6 months. During that time, they should have awesome sex every night. Once 6 months have passed and my paid snail has left, the snail will be heartbroken and wouldn't want to get out of his room ever. It might even become a drunkard and waste away its immortality. 30 years later, you're making out with a girl. Your hand brushes her cheek. Suddenly, you feel your immortality draining away. You look with horror at your hand, stained with MacLeod. You taste her lipstick on your lips. You realize that finally, after all these years, the snail has had its revenge. Buy one of those bubbles that you can walk in and live like that. Then he couldn't touch me. Why not put the snail in a snail-sized bubble? Follow-up questions might be in order. Like, how does the snail spend the money? Does it hire a butler or something that carries its debit card? It's highly intelligent, but lacks vocal cords. Can it communicate at all? How about airplane travel? Does it only travel by crawling? I was thinking in the same way as this. With $1 million, if it can only crawl, I would move across the ocean and first calculate its crawl speed on average, and then at about 80% of that travel time I would move once more. It could probably get on a plane in a few hours. I'm cracking the fuck up imagining a snail going through customs at an airport. Pay someone to launch the snail into space using a small rocket with just enough power to launch it out of Earth's orbit. Its super intelligence means nothing if it physically is unable to do anything and is just floating through space. The snail is super intelligent and rich and immortal and will only die if I touch it. Yeah, the villain in me is coming out. Seal him in a biodome, take his money and invest it. Then once we figure out snail/human communication, I ask why he wants to kill us both by touching me. After talking it out, if he agrees to not try to touch, I'll give him his money plus interest and set him free. If he still wants to touch and I will seal him in acrylic and wear him as a necklace. That way when I want to stop being immortal and die, I can just drill in. So the snail is super intelligent, and I imagine it would see through most of these other people's plans. Of course, what I do is I embrace this snail coming towards me, but secretly I have a plan. Most people would settle for a metal box to trap the snail, but they are forgetting one thing, that this snail being super intelligent and all can probably operate a motor vehicle, go around a box, not fall for a hamster wheel, etc. Exactly what I do is instead of looking for these cheap tricks in hopes of living an eternal life of riches is invest. But what I invest in, you might ask? Obviously not some sort of simple container for the snail. Desire of riches is not going to fool me into that sort of trap. Yes, that's right. I invest in a sort of microscopic coating. Once I find the right team of scientists, I invest half of my $1 million into developing this coating. Not only would this coating have to cover me, but it would also have to be permanent and invisible. Could this be possible? Even I do not know, but with right team, it might just. Though that's not the end. Over the years, this snail would probably realize that I had a microscopic coating, so it would evolve to deal with this. Little does the snail know, through the hundreds of years I had devised a second plan. Deception. Making a clone of myself. The clone would be eternal too, and having both of me's go to opposite ends of the earth. The snail would be trapped, feeling an equally strong pull in both directions. The snail would be paralyzed, and I would be living a life of eternal joy. Except for one thing, read the first letter of every sentence to find out. Holy shit, the snail could use all $1 million to hire human escorts to carry it around and throw it at me. This is a much harder problem to solve than I thought. I'd probably hire armed men to capture the snail before he could think of something and spend the rest of the $1 million putting him inside an impenetrable fortress of like a mile of solid concrete walls, landmined everywhere, underground, the works. I can remake the money by being immortal. No, it couldn't. It's a super intelligent snail. Even if that's by human standards instead of snail standards, the damn thing could not communicate with people, spend its money, actually do much of anything to hurt you besides touch you. only knows what direction you are in, and basically nothing else about you. Doesn't even have particularly great sensory organs itself. If you both started in the same room, you could go out for a cup of coffee, take a nap, walk back to the room, and intercept the snail crawling towards you, trap it in a jar and study its characteristics. Any special markings, or whatever it might have, anything at all that might distinguish it from a normal snail. You could spend as long as you like on this, pay someone to tag the snail in a way it would be unable to remove, test it to make sure it's the right damn snail by salting it, none of that decoy bullshit. You can go out and collect snails of the same species to compare notes. After that, go crazy. Isolate it so thoroughly that it could never get to you. Don't even tell others about it. You're just a biologist with more money than sense for the better part of a year, hellbent on finding new and creative ways to torture snails. Even if you spend 10% of your funds on this little venture, you're immortal and off to a great start. Figure out how to turn that into real money. Okay, let's do this. First things first, that $1 million is practically worthless compared to immortality. Every dime of that cash cannon should be spent ensuring that the snail never ever reaches me. First things first, I keep an eye on him. It's tempting to want to hop on a plane or a train and get as far away as possible. But once I do that, he's gone and I'll never see him again until 3 AM on July 14th, 2072, when the sneaky little cuss slips in the door and slimes onto me before I ever wake up and notice him. No, I'm going to be within visual distance of the snail, slowly moving away from it until snail containment plan part A is done. Next I grab my phone. I call up someone I can trust with my life and tell them to come to my location within the hour and to bring a metal cash box, a good padlock, and a firearm. Once they arrive, I inform them of the deal and ask them to grab the snail, shove it into the metal box, and lock it up. Once the snail is temporarily secured, I ask my friend to carry around the box, never letting it out of their sight, and to prevent its opening with as much force as is required. We arrive at some reasonable figure for this service, maybe $50,000. Now we can start in on the real work. I'm on the phone again, contracting with a tungsten machining service out of Willowbrook, Illinois. I ask them to construct for me a hollow tungsten sphere with a small sealable opening, ideally via both exterior bolts and sintering. I ask them for a rush job and a thick wall depth, perhaps as much as a foot thick. The spherical shape should keep material costs as low as possible for a given thickness, but between the unusual object, large amount of tungsten, and speedy delivery, I invest a truly insane amount into this project, let's say $100,000. I ask them to deliver it to my current location as fast as possible. Once the tungsten ball arrives, I have my friend stand well away from me and transfer the snail into the center of the sphere. I ask them to pour a little salt down into the hole after it, just to give the snail a little reminder of who he's dealing with. Once snail and salt are both inside, we seal the hollow sphere with the bolts. Tungsten is an amazing material, incredibly tough, dense, and heat resistant. You could drop it into molten lava, and it wouldn't matter. Which, coincidentally, is almost what I'd like to do next. Now we make sure that damn thing stays shut. I find the nearest metal refinery and call them up. I also contract with a heavy machinery moving company to move the tungsten sphere to the refinery. Once the refinery has sintered the tungsten sphere shut, I buy an entire industrial crucible, those big buckets, of molten iron, and the crucible the iron came in. I have them drop the tungsten sphere into the molten iron and let the whole mass cool in place. Mr. Snaily Snail ain't going anywhere, but I'm probably down another $100,000. Now I'm on the phone to specialist movers, chartering a boat. We are taking this thing halfway around the world. We take the boat right over the Marianas Trench, not the deepest point, but deep enough. We push the whole assembly over the side. Literal tons of once molten iron, refinery crucible, tungsten, salt, and snail slip over the side and begin dropping into the briny deep. Another $100,000 gone, but well worth the cost. Good. That's bought me a little breathing room. But we are not anywhere close to done yet. I still have at least $500,000 left. I'm going to invest it into solid business ventures and slow growing but secure assets. We're building a fortune, and who cares if it takes a few centuries? I'm frickin' immortal, baby. But as I develop my fortune, it's getting invested into space. SpaceX, asteroid mining projects, whatever. I'm trapped on the one planet in the entire universe where I can actually die, and I have no intention of staying there. Over the millennia, I slowly apply my fortune and influence to push mankind to the stars. And the moment living on another planet becomes viable, I'm there. And the instant a habitable planet is around another star, I'm on the first generation ship heading that direction. But I can't think in such a short-sighted manner now. I'm immortal, and I need to think like it. Eventually, the sun is going to burn the earth to a crisp, and then that damn snail is going to be free. It might take him a few million years to land on something, but he'll do it eventually. And then he will construct a spacecraft and begin crawling towards me again. What I care about now is light cones and black holes. Earth's gotta go. Sorry whatever's left of humanity. We evacuate anyone still on the old planet and use a gravity tractor to push Earth into a black hole. A nice, big one so that Hawking radiation will take an incredibly long time to evaporate it away into nothing. And then I board a ship. A fast ship. I accelerate to as close to light speed as I can get, piloting directly away from the black hole with the snail inside. I want to be so far away and moving so quickly that the heat death of the universe would occur far, far before the snail ever reaches me. Even on the fastest ship his freakishly clever little brain can construct. So that's the way the universe ends. With nothing in except for infinite heat, one hyper-intelligent snail suspended in an inky void, and one human screaming away from it at 0.99 C. You have a message from the intelligent snail. Like and subscribe to live an annoying snail-free life.